Hello everyone, any credits here? You know what that means? More shulker farming content. In this video, I want to give an update on what I've been working on over the last few months, and share with you the latest version of my supercharged scaffolding shulker farm. But before we dive into the main part of the video, just a quick roundup of what's been happening since the last time I uploaded. First up, I collaborated with MD to do a tutorial for my take on Dark's simplest shulker farm concept. Go check out the video, and while you're there, stop by MD's channel. He's working on a bunch of cool stuff, including a new introductory series of getting to grips with redstone. On that note, my designs have been exploding in popularity recently, with my big break coming with one of my favourite YouTubers, Logical Deep Boy, showcasing one of my designs on his Let's Play series. Since then, I've seen my designs appear in many different places all around the world, including not just once, but twice on Hermitcraft. It really means a lot to me seeing people using and appreciating my work, and I hope I can keep reaching many more people in the future. Looking through all the different channels has made me appreciate how many great Let's Play series there are from smaller YouTubers. So what I want everyone to do is go to the comments and share some of your favourite, lesser known Minecraft YouTubers, and have a check out of some of the other channels that people have posted. Speaking of smaller YouTubers, I've been really excited seeing FrunoCraft take on the challenge of developing a brand new shulker reactor design. There's a lot of cool little tricks and innovations Fruno uses, so go and check out his video. It's possibly the first example of a playerless vertical reactor design, which is something I've been wanting to see for a while, so hats off to Fruno. Equally impressive is Barracuda taking on the task of turning the 10,000 shell per hour superfast shulker farm concept from my previous video into a fully working farm. In doing so, he's come up with a couple of neat tricks, which has led to some of the developments I'll be talking about later in this video. The finished farm isn't quite ready yet, but I'll be including a link in the description when it's done, so keep checking if you want to know why a shulker farm could possibly need a dedicated chicken grinder. On my end, I've also been making numerous small tweaks and quality of life changes to my previous design. These include replacing the water column walls with scaffolding to aid in buildability, getting rid of the comparator cooldown clock at the top of the farm, and tweaking the design of the supercharger slightly. But despite these changes, that design is starting to show its age now. It's time for something new. If you've been following my channel, you'll know that one of the ways I squeeze rates out of my farms is by using additional shulkers to bombard the breeding shulker with extra bullets. So let's crank up the firepower. However, the current breeding chamber design is not suitable for high levels of bullets, as too many bullets start to make it through, killing the shulker before it can split. The orientation of the current chamber is also a bit of a pain, as having the shulker sit on the ceiling means we can't eject it directly into the chamber. Instead, we have to push it in with a piston. This adds a lot of complexity, and also means we have to take care to stop the golems from firing when our shulker is being inserted, to prevent trash mappets from occurring. So, what is the solution to these issues? If you paid attention to my video on the super fast shulker farm concept, you might have guessed that the answer is armor stands. If you want to know more about how armor stands are useful in shulker farming, I suggest checking out that video. But in short, they protect the shulker from being hit until it is actually able to duplicate, meaning we can fire as many bullets as we want. In my video on the previous design, I showed off a quick sneak peek of a secret prototype, which was capable of producing over 2,000 shells an hour. In fact, this prototype was based on this same armor stand technique. However, it suffered from its fatal flaw, which was that the detection system just wasn't reliable. Detecting the presence of a shulker in the system is important for knowing when the shulker needs to be replaced. In the past, they used pressure plate detection, where a shulker opening up would activate a pressure plate. However, since the shulker opens intermittently, this requires the use of a cooldown clock to smooth out the signal, increasing the time taken to detect when the shulker needs to be replaced, and often results in an unreliable detection. A more reliable alternative to pressure plates is pufferfish, using the fact that pufferfish puff up when near other mobs. However, pufferfish also pop up when near armor stands, making them difficult to use for our case. It turns out that Here's Johnny Vindicators will target living entities, and not armor stands, but an innovative solution invented by Barracuda for use in his design is to dispense an item on top of the shulker, which is then picked up in a hopper below when the shulker disappears. I actually built a working version of my farm using an item-based detection system. However, the main issue is that the items will eventually despawn, adding significant extra complexity to prevent this from happening. A similar approach to item-based restocking is to use a minecart instead of an item, using a detector rail to detect when the shulker has disappeared. However, aligning the minecart adds complexity. Thus, minecarts can also be destroyed by wayward shulker bullets. What do we know that can't be broken by shulker bullets? In fact, armor stand-based detection systems have been used in the past, pushing upwards into the shulker. But this limits the shulker orientation to facing downwards, which is what we wanted to avoid in the first place. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to break armor stands into item form, well, without relying on arrows. So the big question is how to design a system to automatically replace the armor stand on top of the shulker whenever the shulker is replaced. Despite the inevitable horrible complexity of such a system, I decided to give it a go in the hope that I could come up with something workable. Wait, seriously, is that all it was? Oh no. As well as a new detection system, we also have a new breeding cell design, loosely based off of Dark's design from the Superfast Shulker Farm concept. This new cell layout makes use of projectile clipping, where projectiles can actually hit shulkers through a trapdoor. This works since projectiles only collide with blocks if their center point hits the block, while they collide with entities if any part of their hitbox intersects with the entity. Insertion of shulkers into the system is now much more direct. Ejection of the shulker and breaking of the minecart are combined into a single operation, using rail snapping and clipping into a lava cauldron. The minecarts are also dispensed immediately instead of waiting for a restock, making use of the holding chamber above instead. Thanks to Hexatron for the trick of using a pressure plate and note block instead of a string and observer, which enable use of just a single minecart for the whole system. The resulting breeding cell is significantly simpler than the previous design, with armor stand detection eliminating the need for additional detection circuitry. This makes it easier to build and less likely to go wrong than the old design. Detection and restock times are also significantly lower than for the previous design, increasing the overall rates of the farm by reducing idle time during restocks. The top half of the farm has also been simplified, though you may want to adapt this yourself to make it safe to work on, and also to access any drops. And the holding chamber has also been moved as far away as possible to reduce the chance of trash muppets. With the same 8 shulkers in the Supercharger, we see rates of about 1,450 shells an hour, a significant increase over the previous version. However, if we push the Supercharger to the limit with over 80 shulkers, this jumps to a whopping 2,200 shells an hour. While river roses are a simple and lag-friendly approach to grinding shulkers, each spot can only handle about 60 shells an hour, meaning that we need about over 40 spots to handle the full rates of the farm. That's a lot of river roses, and also a lot of hoppers. In my previous video, I showed an alternative grinder that uses boats and minecarts to entity cram the shulkers. While entity cramming is a lot faster than river roses, the grinder can still only grind 2 shulkers at a time, so is limited to about 1,000 shulkers an hour. To deal with this, I made an alternative grinder that uses drowned boat tech to pick up and eject shulkers directly and entity cram them together. This means that as many shulkers can teleport to the grinder can be processed simultaneously. Powder snow is also used to kill off remaining shulkers in the grinder and help contain the items, but isn't strictly necessary. The downside to this grinder is that it's directional, though this can be fixed by buttoning up a few spots, but also that it can get quite laggy, with many shulkers trying to teleport away constantly. It's entirely up to you which grinder you want to use, and I'll include schematics for both versions in the description. One downside to using both armor stand protection and armor stand detection is that trash muppets get stuck in the system with no way for them to be removed. Unfortunately, despite my best efforts to prevent moffats in the first place, I wasn't able to get rid of them completely. Seriously, I don't know where these guys keep coming from. To solve this problem, I simply borrowed a trick I used in the simplest Shulker Farm V2, which I like to call a Muppet Kicker. This simply closes a fence gate in front of the shulker every so often, which is whenever the target blocks get hit by a wayward bullet. This forces the shulker to teleport away. This is less than ideal, as it also kicks away non-Muppets, and is slow to respond, but it does prevent any Muppets from clogging up the system forever. If you watched my video on the super fast Shulker Farm concept, you may be wondering why I didn't also incorporate an external algo engine. Well, the main reason is that it adds additional complexity, and if we're going to go that far, you may as well just build Barracuda's farm. But there's also an important limitation for Scaffolding Shulker farms, which is, while shulkers are removed very quickly, they aren't removed instantly. This is important, as shulkers have a chance of teleporting without duplicating if there are other shulkers in range, requiring a restock. To understand how quickly shulkers are actually removed from the volume, I ran some simulations. I won't go through the results here, but I may cover these in a future video. If you want a rule of thumb, it takes about 5 game ticks on average, with 95% of shulkers leaving within 10 game ticks. However, there was one important result from the outcome of my testing. Since shulkers only teleport upwards in the scaffolding layout, one thing that can help is shifting the border region around the farm up by 2 blocks, increasing the chance of shulkers on the inside teleporting to the outside, and also decreasing the chance of shulkers on the outside teleporting back in. This had a noticeable improvement on the simulation in how quickly the shulkers would leave the area, and hence this is what I went with for the final farm. Despite the boost in rate of using the expanded Supercharger, I don't recommend using it over the basic Supercharger. For a start, the additional shulkers and additional bullets cause a significant amount of extra lag. While shulker farms are usually pretty lag friendly, with the full Supercharger, the farm is several times laggier than with just the basic Supercharger. Now this may not be a problem on single player, or on smaller servers, but on medium to large servers, every extra bit of lag counts. As mentioned, there are other options if you really need the extra rates, and I approached this design with the aim of making something powerful yet accessible, so this design isn't really optimized to take full advantage of the expanded Supercharger. If you just need a shulker farm design, I also recommend considering the simplest Shulker Farm V2. This was designed to be as easy to build as possible, while still giving exceptional rates. And, as I mentioned at the start of this video, there is a top-notch tutorial available from MD. That said, we play Minecraft because we enjoy the game, and ultimately you should build the farm you want to build. On that note, I've been making a list of all the Shulker Farm design out there, so leave a comment if that's something that would interest you, or if you have a particular aspect of shulker farming that you'd like to see more of. Unfortunately, I won't be doing a full build tutorial on this farm. That said, if you're a content creator interested in doing a build tutorial, please do get in touch. In the meantime, schematics and world downloads of different versions of the farm will be included in the description. Keep checking the description, as I'll probably add some tips and tricks on how to get your shulker farm up and running. Well, that's all from me this time, so until next video, bye bye.